Welcome to Pod Me If You Can. I'm David Farrell. Today's film is called Dragon Fighter, and it stars the one and only Dean Cain.
Pardon me if you can. Movie reviews.
In 1109 AD, we watch as some knights through the countryside find a dragon, attack it, force it into a cave, which eventually collapses, forcing the dragon to be trapped and preserved for the future. Enter David Carver, played by Dean Cain. He's a helicopter pilot and the new head of security for an underground facility. He casually guesses that the facility is used for cloning, because he's never bringing any animal test subjects because they must be making their own. At the new security facility, Carver finds out that they are cloning, and the latest thing they want to clone is a dragon. The dragon grows to full size within a matter of hours, and unfortunately is carnivorous. Now it's up to Carver to save the team, slay the dragon, and survive this underground nightmare. Dragon Fighter is an awful film. This is a Sci-Fi Channel original movie that is on DVD Region 4 here in Australia, and Dean Cain is the only credible thing about it. Now, Dean Cain is a fairly cheesy actor, and was okay in Lois and Clark, but here he's out of his reach. He's out of his depth. The first clue that this is a bad film is this terrible CGI helicopter that Dean Cain is flying. It's really early in the film, and the way he casually guesses that they're cloning, there is really no logic to this, and really they're just setting up that Carver is a smart guy. When he meets his love interest, Dr. Meredith Winters, played by Christine Byers, in her only role besides Hot Girl number 1 on IMDb, she can't figure him out. Dr. Meredith Winters is sure that he was just some kind of lughead army guy, and the fact that he has any kind of depth to him is fascinating to her. Dean Cain, head of security, says clever things like, "Doesn't anybody read fables anymore?" when no one can decide what the fossils could be. He's sure that it's dragons, and everybody laughs at him, but obviously he's right. Carver says things like, "Just because you haven't seen something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I've never been to Paris, but I'm pretty sure it's still real," which is the only real explanation we get as to why dragons exist. To keep things interesting, the director and editors, presumably, of this film decided to do a split-screen way of talking when the characters are all together. This split screen reminded me most of Hulk, the Ang Lee film. It's used to the same sort of effect, and because they're scientists in a lab most of the time, it really does look the same. The problem is, in the split screens, is that they don't always match, and sometimes you can see Dean Cain in two images and he's not quite doing the same thing, and they're kind of counting on the fact that you'll only be looking at one or the other. But out of the corner of my eye, I kept seeing him twitch or move in the wrong one, and it really took me out of it. There are really clunky lines in this film, like Dr. Meredith Winters in one point says, "Welcome to the bottom of the middle of nowhere," because they're in an underground facility. As we meet each character, they do this thing where they put up text on the screen saying, "Dr. Meredith Winters," and it says all of her stats. And that comes up every single time, like Dean Cain's playing some kind of Terminator that gets all the facts about each person. Except for one of them, it's totally different font and it's just unexplained bad editing. Bad news too, Dean Cain's playing a character that has a real phobia of fire. So his love interest, Dr. Meredith Winters, who's not a good actress, not a good role. I mean, it was frustrating. Every other line she delivered was not good. She finds him so interesting, He's just such a fascinating guy. And at one point, Dean Cain's reading a biology book, even though he's the head of security. Everything that happens, this entire film is one day. It's his first day on the job, and it is the worst day on the job. Carver plays the voice of reason, which is crazy because all of these scientists are supposed to be the most educated and intelligent people in the film, but the head of security comes in and runs circles around them. There's really no reason as well for the dragon to incubate so fast and be completely hatched in 3 hours. It's never explained, and it's a real sticking point of the science of this film. The problem too is that Carver keeps going out with just one person. He'll go out with the token black guy, and they'll go for a walk, and only Dean Cain will come back alive. Every time he does this, 3 times in the course of the movie, he leaves with one person, and they wind up getting killed by a dragon, while he winds up running from the dragon and jumping away from fire at the last minute to knock himself back into the room with everyone else and claim that so-and-so didn't make it. One thing I found really frustrating about this movie, despite the accents, there's all these European accents, everybody, it's very frustrating. Anyway, one thing was nobody mourns anybody in the film, which makes everybody really two-dimensional. Everybody is just dragon fodder. And, the amount of people that die, they just move right on, right away. The overall worst thing about this film, and the reason that it's so bad, is the CGI. The dragon is done by what looks like a class who have just learned CGI effects day one. The way it walks is like a video game, left to right, left to right, left to right, left to right, in exactly the same monotonous way. It is not intimidating, it is not scary. It is a giant dinosaur that looks like it was made on a computer, and it has no depth. This lackluster CGI repeats all through the film, and they do this cost-effective thing where they do sort of a dragon point of view, because they really have to avoid showing the dragon too much. If they show it, then you'll realize how clunky it is, and it is very clunky. One of my favorite things was when you find out Dr. Meredith Winter can fly a helicopter. And this was the worst dialogue I've heard for a long time. He says, "I can't believe you can fly a helicopter." And then she says, "Well, what do you expect a girl that clones creatures for a living to do as a hobby?" Anything else? The truth is they just need someone else on the helicopter to be able to fly the helicopter, because while they're up there, something goes wrong, and Dean Cain's character has to stand up and leave the controls. So you need somebody else there who's capable, and it was such a sloppy bit of exposition that they could have done way earlier. They rip off Jurassic Park, they rip off Alien. It's also annoying they introduce a medieval sword that one of them has in their room, and Dean Cain wields the sword for about 10 seconds and then never uses it. It would have been great if in Dragon Fighter they did any kind of fighting of a dragon at all. Mostly the film is dragon avoidance, as one person on IMDb said.
Damn.
What?
It's password protected.
What's the password?
I don't know, Ian. Do you think maybe if we knew what it was, it would defeat the whole purpose of there being a password?
It's gotta be something easy to remember. His birth date, a social security number. Does he have any kids?
No. Sorry.
Excuse me. Y-E-L-I-A-B. My name's spelled backwards. Kinda sweet, don't you think?
The great news for Dragon Fighter fans, whoever you are, is that they set up for a sequel and show us an egg incubating and hatching in exactly the sort of same way that Godzilla did. It's awful, and I fully encourage you to stay away from this film. Dean Cain lovers only, and look, Dragon Fighter is one of the worst sort of films. So few redeemable qualities. Ordinarily, I would say, definitely sort of check this one out for laughs, but the problem is that it's got none. There's so little to like here. Everything sucked. I'm sorry to say.
Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, please hit the subscribe button. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Check out our podcast at www.podmeifyoucan.com.